Some Middle East analysts have been saying that Iran is likely offering the U.S. an economic and commercial bonanza as part of any deal. The Iranian economy could use some investment. Over the last year, Iran's currency lost 97% of its value versus the dollar. That's a collapse, by the way. And food prices continue to soar, up 72% in 2025. The situation sparked widespread protests last month. Adnan Mazarei was the deputy director of the IMF's Middle East and Central Asia Department. He's now a senior fellow with the Peterson Institute. And glad to have you here as we try and parse any kind of an outcome from these negotiations. You know, the fact that the Iranian economy is being strangled by sanctions, not new. But Iran is now at the negotiating table. Do you believe they must and that they will capitulate to U.S. demands on their nuclear program, maybe even their missile program, in exchange for those sanctions and some sanctions relief?
Good to be with you. Look, these negotiations, as you said, are happening against the background of sanctions, which have been tightened since President Trump came in at early 2025. These sanctions have been strengthened in two ways. One is to reduce Iran's ability to sell oil and other products, and to repatriate the funds of anything it does sell. A few days ago, the U.S. tightened its sanctions on Iran's shadow fleet. And again, in the background is also the president's threat to impose tariffs on any country that deals with trades with Iran. Now, Secretary Besson is confident that these sanctions that have been intensified this last year are a major reason that there was a public uprising there has been a public uprising in the past couple of months. Okay, these uprisings have been a major challenge to the government, but they've been brutally suppressed thus far. The Iranians are interested in a deal, but on their own terms. They will not, for example, try to make any concessions on the missiles front. There's also a problem that there's a major credibility gap between the two parties. The U.S. doesn't think the Iranians will adhere to what they agree, and the Iranians similarly think that if they agree to something, the U.S. will turn around and ask for something else, not remove sanctions or even attack Iran. These economic offerings that Iran is making may be a substitute for a commitment device on the part of the U.S. to Iran that it will not attack. Mm-hmm. And it will also be seen by the Iranians as an incentive.
The point, though, about the economy, it is an existential threat to Iran now. You mentioned the protests. The economy is really strangling people there. The inflation is at unsustainable levels. I know everyone says that Iran will not give up missiles. They will not give up some of their nuclear program because it's existential. But at this point, isn't their economic problem existential as well?
The economic problem is existential. But one has to remember the first priority of this regime is survival. And compromising on the missile front, they may see as an attack on their survival. And at the same time, they have a high tolerance for pain on the part of the population. So they may just endure the sanctions further and not make any concessions beyond what they want to, which is perhaps suspension or of enrichment, and maybe something on the transfer of the already enriched stockpile.
You know, we are used to hearing that sanctions don't work in the short term, and they may not even work in the long term. Do you believe that these recent developments in Iran can challenge that theory?
The sanctions and the resulting public anger, which is not just because of sanctions, but is also against, it's about the suppression of women. It is about the suppression of political freedoms, is having a major impact. as I said, the final decision on the part of the Iranian authorities is based on regime survival. They are under considerable pressure to do something. That's why they want to reach some agreement, but not if the agreement will undermine their continuation as a regime.
Adnan, just hearing you in the last few minutes, we get an idea of just how difficult these negotiations will still be in the coming days and weeks. Grateful to you for your insights. Thanks so much. Now,